Hey guys, welcome back to another Yellow Flower travel review. So we stayed in an Airbnb within the Vila Verde complex in Cape Verde. This was the reception of one of the hotels in the complex. For context, the taxi driver dropped us off at the wrong place. The door going into the reception area was heavy and not easy to open, but once inside, the area was spacious with lots of seating. There was also a cute and welcoming decorative table to, I suppose, bring character to a very plain entrance. There was also a map detailing the grounds. The map, however, was not in Braille and the writing was small. The receptionist was very helpful, however, and tried to assist us as much as possible. There was also an accessible toilet in the reception area, which is useful. As the distance was far and there were no porters, the Airbnb hosts kindly collected us from the reception area by car and took us to the building where the Airbnb apartment was, the sit-in building. As you go in, there were some lifts on the side and some rather narrow staircases. It was on the first floor, and this is the door to the Airbnb apartment. Now, as you go in, you can see instantly there was lots of space. There was a wardrobe with some cleaning products and an iron. It was very clean. Now, here is the first bathroom. It was a shower room. It was very clean, but it was not accessible. And this is the entrance again from a different angle with a long mirror, which is always helpful. And this is the front room. It was very spacious. I really appreciated the attention to detail. The art on the wall was very interesting. And the hosts themselves were very accommodating and very welcoming indeed. Here is a flat screen TV with access to the internet and Netflix, which is always helpful. And again, here you see some more of the art on the wall. I think this was the centerpiece. Now, the kitchen, I loved the kitchen. It was fully equipped. There was a washing machine, a sink, obviously, a coffee machine, lots of pots, pans, cooking utensils, plates, cups. All you could think of. It really was a fully equipped kitchen. In fact, I'd say perhaps one of the best Airbnb kitchens we have ever stayed at. We'd go as far as saying perhaps this was our favorite part of the Airbnb, and even the pièce de résistance itself of the apartment. Now, as you can see, there was a big fridge and freezer and a delightful note from the hosts themselves, which I thought was really a lovely touch, with some taxi numbers to contact. The hosts left us some water, some apple juice and yogurts for the little one, and some fruit, a delicious mango on the dining table. And here's another angle of the dining area. We spent only 2 nights at this Airbnb, but it was truly lovely. Now, here is the entrance to one of the balconies of the apartment, and this is the view from the first balcony. And again, another angle of that really, really, really warm and comfortable front room. Really enjoyed it there, with plenty of space, but again, as mentioned, not accessible. But it was very calm, which is lovely to unwind and have some social breaks. Now, this is the entrance to the first room with a safety box and some hangers, lots of wardrobe space, which is always helpful. I will say that the room itself was small, but acceptable. The beds, however, weren't very comfortable. The mattress was a little bit unstable, and there was only one bedside table. I know sometimes it's always nice to have bedside tables on both sides. Here is another lovely warm touch to the room. The decoration was truly welcoming, and this is the entrance to the second room with a double bed. Again, the mattress was a little bit uncomfortable, but there was lots of storage space, lots of cupboards and drawers, but again, only one bedside table, which also made it quite tricky for charging our devices and appliances. Now, this is the second bathroom, and what I loved was that there was a bidet, which you don't see everywhere. Here is the bath with a curtain. Now, the water did stop working on our last day, but the hosts tried their best to get it to work again. And this is the outside area. We wanted to explore the famous Bikini Beach, but trying to get there wasn't as straightforward. Whilst the grounds were big and beautiful with lots of space, the signage wasn't very clear. We did get lost a few times and it seemed rather airy, perhaps the time of year, but there was a supermarket on the grounds which was open, and we went to the supermarket twice, which was helpful as we needed some essentials. The supermarket had quite a lot of items. Again, there wasn't any plant-based milk. The manager did say that usually they have some. And here is the path that we found behind the resort to go to the beach. It wasn't accessible. In fact, we struggled quite a bit. The path was narrow, not very clean. I'm sure there's another way to get there. I think it would be recommended to perhaps book a taxi in advance to get to Bikini Beach instead of walking on this rather dubious path that we found. We did eventually find the entrance, but again, it was a long, unstable path down to the beach itself. There is a more accessible beach closer to the resort, but we didn't have a chance to go and visit that beach. Now back at the resort, we explored a little bit more and we found another swimming pool with a delightful playground, which I thought was fun. The swimming pool was not step-free and I didn't see any lifeguards. In fact, I didn't see anyone, but not sure why. We found a gym which was not fully equipped but had a lot of exercise balls, which I guess could be helpful, and some beautiful gardens as well. In fact, the gardens provided a nice mental break. Now, here is a map, and there were lots of maps around the resort, but they weren't very clear, they weren't in Braille, and they weren't very big. We still did get lost, and even in trying to read the maps, we found it quite challenging. There were lots of benches along the way, which was nice to be able to sit down and pause. And because the resort was so empty, it did not feel overstimulating. It was quiet, it was calm, and it was peaceful. And here you see some more of those beautiful little gardens and the pool that we could see from our balcony. Here is the pool. It was not step-free. There were steps going into the pool, but there was also a little baby pool, which I thought was lovely. A baby and children's pool, I should say. There weren't any lifeguards, and when I did go into the pool, there was no one there. And again, a quiet playground, which I think is lovely for those who require less crowded areas and a nice seating area under some beautiful gardens. There was a pool desk at the pool. I suppose it was perhaps for a lifeguard or someone to overlook the pool, but because the signs weren't clear, I wasn't too sure what that desk was for. There were 2 bathrooms as well. They were not accessible bathrooms by the pool. Here you have the entrance, and that takes you to the pool. Overall, it was a short but delightful stay. It was accommodating for those who prefer calm and less overstimulating settings, and it's great for children who may prefer calmer zones but with little interaction. This could be an exception as we were there for only 2 nights. Accessibility, maps and signpostings could be vastly improved. Thank you for watching. Please read caption below for further details.